Lagos taught her to chase shine, but she left behind the only man who ever truly saw her. Lola was the kind of woman people stared at twice. Not because she tried too hard, no. Her elegance was effortless. She was caramel-skinned, with almond eyes that held both fire and sadness. She worked as a content manager in Ikeja, sharp with words, sharper with ambition. At 27, everyone expected her to be married. Her mother had started dropping hints in phone calls. All your mates are tying the knot to, you want to become furniture in my house. Her colleagues didn't help either. Fine girl like you. Where's the ring? But Lola had been in love once. Dayo. A simple man with soft eyes and an old Corolla. He taught literature in a secondary school, and he loved her out loud. He made amala for her after work. He listened, truly listened. When her father was hospitalized, Daya was the one who stayed overnight on a plastic chair, praying. But love wasn't trending. Dayo didn't post her online. He couldn't afford beach getaways or fine dining. He gave his time, not money. And in a city like Lagos, time wasn't enough. The shift was gradual. Lola stopped replying quickly. She began to feel embarrassed introducing him at events. One day, she saw a friend post her engagement to a real estate mogul with the caption, "Soft life or nothing," and something in her cracked. Dayo noticed. "You've been quiet, so," he said, eyes full of worry. "Maybe we're not meant for the same life," she whispered. He didn't fight. He just nodded, as if he knew he was already losing her to the city. She walked away from that love, clean, decisive. But not without scars. Because late at night, after all the filters and curated captions, when she lay in her expensive sheets alone, she would hear his voice in her mind. Not pleading, not angry, just sad. She told herself she wanted more. But deep inside, she feared she just traded peace for presentation. And that's how it began, not with wickedness, but with wanting something more than love could offer. He had the money, the car, the aura, and Lola told herself, this must be love. It started at a networking brunch in Lekki. The theme was young, gifted, and female, and Lola had been invited as a guest speaker. She wore a sleek ivory jumpsuit, her braids tied up in a bun. Her words danced effortlessly as she spoke about branding and digital influence. After her talk, she stepped aside for a drink. That's when she saw him. Dark-skinned, bearded, clean-cut. He walked like the floor owed him something. Gucci slippers, diamond wristwatch, and a cologne that screamed Dubai. "Nice speech," he said, flashing teeth whiter than her future. His name was Chuka. He ran a chain of lounges across Lagos and Abuja, imported drinks, celebrities as clients. He made money in silence, and noise followed him everywhere. He said all the right things. A woman like you deserves elegance and ease. That week, he sent her flowers. The next, he sent an iPhone. 2 weeks in, he flew her to Abuja for fresh air and pepper soup. Her friends were screaming in her DMs. "Lola, this is your time. Girl, God has finally remembered you. This one no be Dayo." She laughed. She told herself she was happy. But inside, something tugged. Chuka never asked how her day went. He didn't care that she hated loud music or that she loved to write poetry in the dark. He wanted her as an accessory, not a companion. Still, she told herself, at least I'll never worry about money again. Her mother loved him. This one is serious. Marry him fast before another girl grabs him. So when he proposed, with a ring that looked like a crown, she said yes. Not with joy, but with the weight of relief. Finally, she could post her own engagement picture with the caption, "God's time is the best." She planned the wedding like a campaign.
hashtags, decorators, aswebi. It was going to be the event of the year. But in her quiet moments, especially at night, she would still dream of soft amala, old Corolla, and a man who once said, "I don't have much, but I will never leave you hungry for love." She shook the thoughts off. Dreams were not reality, and reality was a man that shined like gold. Are you enjoying the story? Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, because trust me, things are about to take a wild turn.
It was the little things that didn't sit right. But she called it nerves, not warnings. The wedding was 3 weeks away. Lola had moved into Chuka's penthouse apartment in Banana Island to get used to the soft life. The space looked like it belonged in a billionaire's mood board. Glass walls, floating stairs, mirrors everywhere. Boy never felt like home. There were no family photos. No toothbrush by the sink except hers. No scent of food from the kitchen. Only the sterile aroma of imported air freshener and cold air conditioning. And Chuka, he was everywhere, yet strangely distant. Some nights he would disappear without warning. Business emergency, he would say over the phone, always too quickly. Other nights he would sit on the balcony staring into the sky, whispering things she could not hear. She once found a room in the house locked. When she asked about it, his voice turned sharp. "That's my private space. Don't ask again." She laughed it off, blaming pre-wedding stress. She wanted so badly to believe this was just a phase. But then there was the dream. She woke up sweating at 3:33 a.m. In the dream, she stood at the altar. Chuka smiled at her, but when she looked closely, his eyes were hollow, and smoke curled out of his mouth when he said, "Till death do us part." She reached for her Quran, but strangely, it wasn't in her bag. She always carried it. She began forgetting things, important ones, names, locations, even her own vows. And every time she tried to pray, her voice would shake. She told her best friend Amaka, expecting a laugh or logic. But Amaka stared at her quietly and said, "Lola, what if something is off?" "What do you mean off? Chuka is rich. He's kind. He's enough." Amaka didn't argue. She just whispered, "Sometimes the devil wears designer." But she was too deep, and the invitations had already been printed. By now, the dreams came every night. But she told herself, maybe it's just cold feet, that's all. Just fear pretending to be fate. She never imagined it was something darker.
When you ignore the whisper of warning, you will one day hear the scream of truth. The wedding was perfect, at least on the surface. The venue, a luxury hall in Victoria Island, sparkled with chandeliers. Influencers live-streamed the moment she walked down the aisle in her beaded white gown. Hashtags trended. Lola of Lagos was on every guest's lips. Chuka stood tall on his wine-colored agbada, a chain of coral beads around his neck. He smiled at her, too wide, too still. The officiant declared them husband and wife. Applause, camera flashes, spray of naira notes. But as the music played, Lola's skin prickled with unease. The air felt heavier than usual. Her heart thumped hard against her ribs. But she smiled, posed, and danced. "You've done it," her mother whispered. "You've made it." Later that night, they entered the honeymoon suite at a high-rise hotel overlooking the lagoon. Rose petals, candles, expensive champagne on ice. Lola stood in front of the mirror, removing her earrings slowly. Chuka sat silently on the edge of the bed, staring at her reflection. "Are you happy?" she asked. He didn't answer. She turned. "Chuka?" That's when she saw it. The mirror showed his back, but there was no reflection of his face. Nothing. Just darkness where his head should be. She gasped and spun around, but he was still seated, smiling calmly. "What are you?" she whispered, her throat dry. "You chose me," he said softly, voice suddenly layered, like two men speaking at once. The air turned cold. The champagne bottle shattered on its own. The petals on the bed caught fire without flame. The floor pulsed beneath her feet. He said, "Your greed brought you here, Lola. Not love, not fate, just vanity." His eyes glowed, not like light, but like burning coal. A wind rushed through the sealed room. Her veil lifted and vanished into smoke. She fell to the floor trembling. He leaned in close. "You passed the test and failed it." Then, in one sharp breath, the room went silent. Chuka vanished. No sound, no warmth, no husband. Just Lola alone, in a bridal gown, in a room that no longer looked real. She screamed, but the scream echoed back at her as, "If this story has your heart racing, don't forget to subscribe, because what happens next will haunt you and heal you."
The worst kind of pain isn't loud. It's the silence that follows the noise you thought was love. Lola opened her eyes to the sound of birds, but it wasn't peace. It was confusion. The silk sheets felt cold. The room looked empty. No candles, no petals, no sign of Chuka, not even the smell of last night's perfume. She sat up slowly, her wedding dress still tangled around her legs like a snake that wouldn't let go. Maybe it was a dream, she told herself. She rushed to the bathroom. No toothbrush beside hers, no slippers, no cologne. She picked up her phone. No missed calls, no messages. Chuka's number, invalid contact. Panic setting. She called the hotel reception. "Excuse me, the man I came in with, where is he? Room 903. A pause. "Ma, you checked in alone. No one else has been listed under this suite." Her legs went numb. She stumbled to the mirror. Her reflection stared back, mascara smudged, eyes hollow. "What is happening to me?" she whispered. When she got home later that day, everything looked smaller. Her mother ran to hug her, shouting, "How was it? We saw the clips. Your husband, fine eye." Lola said nothing. She walked straight to her room, locked the door, sat in darkness, and wept. Not the kind of crying that seeks attention, but the kind that comes from realizing you've been played by something bigger than a man. She remembered the locked door in Chuka's house, the way he avoided prayers, the fact that she never met a single relative. She Googled his name. No trace, no business, no NIN, no CAC record, nothing. She called Amaka. "I think I married a spirit." Silence. Then, Amaka said softly, "You ignored love, Lola. Maybe this was a test." Lola dropped the phone. She wasn't crazy. She was punished for choosing presentation over peace, a ring over rest, flash over faith. And in that moment, she felt the weight of every ignored whisper, every silenced instinct, every dream that had tried to warn her. She had climbed a staircase built from vanity and found nothing at the top. When you reach the end of yourself, you either collapse or you kneel. Lola didn't leave her room for 2 days. No makeup, no updates, no captions. She deleted her wedding pictures, turned off her phone, cried until her throat burned. She had never felt so foolish, so exposed.
but pain has a way of waking up your spirit. On the third morning, she bathed, wore a simple Ankara gown, and walked out of the house, barefaced and barefoot, to find answers. She went to her late grandmother's church in Mushin, the place where she once sang hymns as a child, where she used to feel peace before the noise of Lagos drowned it. The old prophetess recognized her immediately. "Ah, Omotayo's granddaughter. I saw you on Instagram in wedding gown. You looked happy." Lola's voice cracked. I wasn't. They sat in silence for a while. Then Lola told her everything. The sudden wealth, the gifts, the disappearing man, the wedding night, the mirror. The prophetess nodded slowly. Spirits don't always come to harm. Some come to test. He didn't touch you, did he? Lola shook her head. He vanished. The woman exhaled. You are not married to a man. You are married to your own reflection, your desire. That spirit was an echo of what was in your heart. He came to expose it, not kill you. So it was my fault? Lola asked, voice trembling. No, it was your choice. And that hit her harder than anything else, because deep down, she knew. She remembered the way Dayo looked at her like she was the only woman alive, the way he prayed with her, the way he showed up without wrapper or Rolex, just love and loyalty. She chose the photo over the feeling, the show over the soul. The prophetess stood, placed her hand on Lola's head, and whispered a prayer that felt like fire and peace at once. You will not die from this, but you will not forget it either. Let this wound become your wisdom. Lola wept again, but this time, the tears felt clean. Lola moved back to her small apartment in Ogodu. The marble floors and full-length mirrors of Banana Island were gone. So were the champagne nights, the hush money transfers, and the followers who once envied her ring. She had lost the man, the fame, the illusion. But she had found something deeper, herself. The first few days were quiet, painfully so. No congratulatory calls, no vendors to manage, no photos to edit, just stillness. She bought herself a mirror, not the big glossy ones, but a simple handheld oval mirror from the roadside. She placed it by her window. Every morning, she would look at it and ask, who am I when no one's watching? At first, there was shame, but soon came grace. She started journaling. She fasted. She read. She apologized to people she had ghosted in her climb. She called Dayo, not to beg, but to say thank you. You were the one thing that was real. And I'm sorry I didn't see your worth when it mattered. Dayo had moved on. He was engaged now, happier, wiser. But he told her something that stayed with her. Lola, you are chasing a version of yourself that didn't even exist. I just wanted to love the real you, but you didn't want her yet. She ended the call, not in tears, but in release. She wasn't the same Lola anymore. Not the girl blinded by diamonds. Not the one who needed validation through lace and location tags. She had lost the fantasy, but gained something richer. A new clarity, a new voice, a new mirror. She was no longer trying to be seen. She was learning how to see herself. It had been 9 months since the wedding that never was. The whispers had died down. The trending posts were buried under new hashtags. Life in Lagos had moved on, but Lola hadn't been left behind. She had just taken a different path. She began teaching digital storytelling part-time, helping other women tell their truth, not just package their pain. She stopped chasing the next big moment. she started watering the present. People asked if she regretted it all. She smiled. No, because the fire didn't kill me. It refined me. She no longer entered rooms needing to prove she was enough. She walked in as someone who had learned the hard way and survived. One Sunday evening, she stood before a group of young women in a small hall in Yaba. She told them her story. Not the glamorized version, but the raw one. The one with the pain, the greed, the spirit and the silence. They listened, wide-eyed, breath held. "You may not all meet a spirit in a wedding gown," she said, smiling faintly. "But every day, you are choosing between peace and presentation. One will fuel you, the other will feed your followers." She paused. "I hope you choose well." When she walked out that night, the air smelled of rain, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone. She felt whole. Not perfect, not soft life, just whole. And that was her healing, not in marrying status or even finding love again, but in finding herself. If this story touched something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe for more stories that reflect our truth, our flaws, and our growth. Because sometimes the best love story is the one where we come back home to ourselves.